3 comics in, and it's not looking any better. Hello, today we're going over the official Murderous comic made in collaboration with Glitch Productions and Onipress. So far we've gone over the previous issues, and now we're on the third one, which goes over episode 4 of the show, Cabin Fever. You can watch the previous rambles to get a little bit more background on the comic, but watching those isn't required for you to understand this one. Before we get into the comic, I should ramble a little bit about the recent changes and marketing for the comic. If you're not interested, you can skip this part, the time is on screen. Those who backed the Kickstarter, either getting a digital or physical edition, would receive digital copies of each comic. For the first 2 issues, the digital comics were given to backers about a week early, and done by Onipress giving a 60-day download link to a direct PDF copy supplied by their campaign management partner at BackerKit. However, due to the comic setting record-breaking numbers at Onipress, it ended up taxing their systems and led to 5% or less of backers either having their emails put into their spam box or not receiving emails at all. Personally, I didn't get an email telling me I'd got issue 2. I only had the announcement email Onipress sent out to everyone the day before saying they would come out the next day. But I don't think some people even got that. I don't know if the 5% only counts people who contacted them, or if that includes people who didn't. On the last video, a few people left comments saying they didn't even know that this issue came out, some of them even having backed the Kickstarter. Obviously I can't confirm if they're telling the truth or not, but I do remember a lot of people on Discord talking about how they didn't get a notification that they had gotten the comic. To fix this problem, starting with issue 3, this has changed. Onipress have now teamed up with digital comic website Neon Ichiban. They sell comics digitally on their website, and also have it so you can sell them and even sign them and buy signed versions. That just sounds like NFTs to me. Anyway, the Neon Ichiban people have made a custom built-in solution specifically for Murderous Kickstarter backers. Kickstarter people now need to make an account with Neon Ichiban, and on the website enter a code they were sent by email. This will add all the comics to their account, so they can read them when each release. There are some issues, and the site does look fairly new as it only opened back in November of 2025. Also, I should mention, the servers actually had an issue because of Murderous fans making accounts and redeeming their codes. But the main thing I should warn people about is the one-time downloads. In your library you will see a download button, and once you click that, you get 24 hours to download it. After the 24 hours is up, you can no longer download it onto any of your devices. Personally, I'm the kind of person who downloads it and saves one version to my local storage and then one to my cloud storage. Now, one of the big things that is disappointing is that the digital version will no longer release a week early. But in their defense, it could be to try combat all the leaking and sharing of the comic. Immediately after each comic releases, fans go online to talk about it and share pictures. So that could lead to some people being spoiled for a lot of the comic before it even comes out for them. In positives, one cool thing the site has is this feature that goes panel to panel instead of one page at a time. And the main good thing about Neon Ichiban is that I assume it can handle Murderous fans better than Onipress could. I will go into a little bit more detail on this stuff, and mostly release date stuff and marketing of the comic near the end of the video, but for now, let's actually talk about the comic. As always, this ramble is a review comparing it to the original episode, going over differences, how things come across, the overall feel of the comic, and fan thoughts such as people online and my own. If you do want to go read the comic, you can buy it in comic shops, Onipress's website, or now Neon Ichiban. With all that said, let's begin. Issue 3 goes over episode 4 of the show, Cabin Fever. Quick explanation of the episode. Everyone goes to a camp. V and N play camp counsellors for Uzi's classmates. Meanwhile, Uzi goes off to search for clues, as this is where her mother and father first met. Uzi discovers secrets, we get teasers of future stuff and villains, all leading to Uzi being overtaken by her hunger, and we see the real side effects of the Absolute Solver. So, let's see how the comic does all of this. As always, the comic begins with a very nice cover and an explanation of the previous issues. One problem here is that it says Uzi N and V fought Eldritch J. However, V was nowhere near Eldritch J, and probably had no idea it even existed. The story begins with some nice art of Camp 98.7, and we see worker drones get off the bus as we're shown Khan telling Uzi about Nori and all of her kooky stuff. Also, young Khan has no mustache for one of his pictures for some reason, meanwhile the other does. In the show, Nori's kooky stuff is a very pausable moment. There's a lot of blink and you'll miss it things. Here in the comic, you get all of these drawings on one panel, which is fine, but for some reason Nori's ID badge is missing. I feel like that was a big hint, and one of the main things that sticks out in this pile. And going back to issue 2, it looks like she didn't have the ID card there either. I guess that part of hinting at Nori's past is just gone. At least the collar is a part of the story. Uzi won't always be wearing it, but it is there. The drones are told they will be unsupervised, and actually sound excited over it. But N and V arrive as camp counsellors, along with V immediately killing a worker. Unlike the show, Lizzie and Thad don't say they're friends with the murder drones, so that scene and the following one are removed. On the topic, Thad actually has one panel, and that's it. He's in the first one where they're all getting off the bus, and then he disappears. The show does the same thing, with Thad instead disappearing after saying he's friends with N. The comic probably could have just cut out Thad completely and avoided the question of where he is during episode 4. From there, it moves to Uzi looking around and slightly overheating. Now the comic takes out stuff with Uzi looking around and getting flashes of hunger. It also removes a lot of stuff like her going back to dolls, Uzi and V's conversation, or hologram if you believe that, and the teases of Doll and Sin being there. Uzi accidentally steps on a bug and uses her solver thing to fix it. That is dialogue from the comic. You will notice throughout the video that the comic likes to say out loud what they're doing a lot. My guess is maybe because it's not video, they might struggle to present the same thing in a short amount of time and just a few images, so they say a line to sort of explain it, as they can't present it the same way the show does. We don't see Uzi discover the dead drone and the drawings. The key bug she steps on is actually the one she ends up taking with her, and instead of seeing Doll or her hologram stalking Uzi, Doll gets one panel where Uzi says the key bug could help her find Doll. The scene just feels worse, and it does cut out a lot to where it ends up being a little bit confusing and feeling dumbed down, at least for people who have seen the show, because they know this scene had a lot more stuff, which is now completely gone. Uzi speaking and saying what she's doing, even calling the key bug a clue and saying it can help her figure out where Doll is. I also noticed the key bug does scan her, but doesn't have a part saying welcome back 002, so that viewers can link it back to the collar and even Nori's ID badge. To comic readers, it could just look like this thing scans her face and then gives her some options. We move to the drones doing archery, and V kills a random worker. In the show, this was originally an accidental misfire from another worker. Uzi tries to get N's attention without V noticing her, but N greets Uzi, and V decides to aim a bow and arrow at her. Instead of a worker drone accidentally shooting at Uzi, the comic decides to make V the one shooting at Uzi. It's a strange change that makes comic V look like she just wants murder. Why is she even shooting at Uzi in this scene? It just makes V look mad and like she wants Uzi dead for some reason. Uzi uses the solver, which makes the arrow into a pile of brown stuff. The scene doesn't make it look as alive and as like a monstrosity like the show did. Uzi runs away and V just looks angry. Does the writer and the people checking this at Glitch understand and know how V acted in this scene? In the show, you can clearly see she has some fear seeing Uzi do this. V knows about Sin, and this is her seeing the solver is taking over Uzi. In the show, the mood is clear. You get she's horrified and wants to kill Uzi out of protecting N and herself. She knows what the solver is, and nobody else does. But in the comic, she just looks mad and the one line she gets doesn't really help. It doesn't help that the previous issues cut out the show's points where they showed V wasn't just a murder machine. In the comic, all of those scenes got cut out, so up until this point, V does just look like a murder machine. Also a smaller thing, what is this panel? The line here annoys me a bit because it looks like one picture that they just put a line through to make it 2 panels. My guess is maybe it's trying to emphasize V more, but I just feel you could take out this line because, again, it looks like this was originally one picture. V and N argue, with V saying, "You know what leaves us alone." Strange choice for her to say that since N doesn't know. That's literally what the argument is saying, that V won't tell him anything. In the show, the audience and N can both tell that V is afraid. Meanwhile, here in the comic, he says the same thing, but it just doesn't work and have the same weight as the show, because to N in the audience, we have not seen Comic V scared, or have any hint at something besides wanting murder. N goes off to look for Uzi, and tells V to stop killing the campers. Lizzie comforts her. Smaller thing, but I don't see the friendship here as much as the show. In the show, it had a little bit of setup with the pictures, her telling V to get out of the way before Doll kills her, her helping V and N fix themselves, and even saying she's friends with V at the start of episode 4. But the comic didn't do any of that. This is a much smaller thing compared to everything else, and something you could easily ignore. It has no real effect on the story, characters, and enjoyment. You could just take the friendship starting here and it would be completely fine. I'm only including this because it was something that popped into my head while reading the comic. Also, just so you know, we are 6 pages into this issue. We still have 18 to go. It cuts to Uzi running through a forest and into a cabin. She blocks the door and lays on the floor before she begins to see error warnings. This scene is just worse than the show. In the show, the scene had a sense of dread and did feel important. It felt like this was a dangerous moment for Uzi. Meanwhile, here in the comic, it kind of just looks like Uzi ate a bad meal and feels sick. Her trying to destroy all the lights is removed, so something forming from that is removed, and instead the error signs just cover her screen. Also, she talks during the entire scene, basically just pushing it into the audience's face. Again, my guess is maybe it can't do the same as video, so they decided this was the best way they could present it without it being too confusing, but it still sucks and does feel like it loses a lot of the tension of the scene. I do think some lines definitely could have been removed, like Uzi saying she doesn't feel so good. Again, the show version had it feel like she was dying, while the comic version just has it like she's a little bit sick. Darren and Rebecca go for their makeout session and end up encountering Solver Uzi. At another cabin, we see N looking around. They add dialogue of N calling out for Uzi, and even stuff about the zombie drones tape, like him going, "Oh, what's that?" and "Movie night campers." I think the dialogue, again, is ruining the scene. I can understand some of it, but stuff like movie night, that just shouldn't be here. N innocently touches the tape, and we get a flash showing us Sin for the first time. N questions if that was his memories. Now, it wasn't as interesting visuals as the show, but it did a good job, and it's nice to see Sin. Also, the art does look good. I'm not sure why the solver is purple, but again, it's fine, and I do actually like the panel. However, N saying out loud, "Were those his memories?" Again, it's really pushing into your face going, see this is important. These are his memories. Do you understand? Really just pushing it into the audience's face so they know what's going on. Uzi regains her control and sees that she killed 2 worker drones. Following the trail, we see 4 drones telling stories by a campfire. Rebecca shows up ripped in half and tries to warn them about an unpopular purple thing. Uzi shows up and kills one, causing the rest to decide, let's split up, as they run away. The red one runs while talking about how he hates splitting up. despite the fact he was the one who said to split up. He also hates that unpopular girl who now has wings, and camping. He trips and hits a tree. The book one of the worker drones was reading hits him on the head, and Uzi kills him. Lizzie runs and finds the final girl, but it turns out it's just Uzi holding her. Comic Uzi doesn't rip her in half before she attacks V. Comic Uzi actually has a fourth wall break by questioning how V survived issue 2, while Lizzie calls her powers neat. But a voice shouts for Uzi to stop, with V arriving and blocking Uzi from killing Lizzie. Not fully sure why she shouted stop. Maybe it's just so the sudden save presents itself better. V throws Uzi and walks forward to kill her. Here we get the first name drop of Sin. V telling Uzi she'll make sure she can't talk to N is removed. As V moves forward, Uzi attacks her. In the show, V has her arm ripped off. Uzi uses the blade to stab V, which causes her to accidentally shoot the missile, which blows Lizzie away. Then Uzi throws V to the floor, stabbing her hand so she can't move, and then ripping off V's stinger when she tries to attack with it. The scene is nice visually and does show V's fear, along with how the solver is stronger. Meanwhile in the comic, Uzi's tail bites V's arm, and then pins her to a tree while suddenly holding her stinger, but then N appears in a heroic entrance, saving V and making Uzi come to her senses as he throws her into the sky. Now in the sky, Uzi and N have a heart-to-heart, with her worrying over the monster she's becoming and the possibility that N might leave her. He says stuff is scary without her because she makes scary stuff fun, and N jokes with her towel. Before Uzi can joke back, the two's rate of descent approaches terminal velocity, and they hit the ground. V is ready to fight, but N is carrying and comforting Uzi, leaving V to observe the tender moment. She looks suspicious and then is surprised when Lizzie teases her, and we see V give a slight smile as Lizzie walks away. With that, the remaining campers leave, or just the main trio and the teacher, as they are the only ones inside the bus. Uzi has the key bug, and her hand burns in the sun, but N holds her hand, moving it out of the light. In the show, Uzi holds his hand, smiles, and he lets go. But the comic decides to keep Uzi and N holding hands while Uzi sleeps on him, and he gives the zombie drone tape a load-forbearing look. Outside the bunker, two drones are looking for something, but a ship drops from the sky, landing on them. Tessa and Jay arrive on the planet, with Jay saying, "To be continued," and Tessa saying, "Nice." With that, the comic ends. I do actually really like this panel, if you take out the "to be continued" part. Maybe that's just because I like Tessa. Originally, this scene was in episode 3, but my guess was because the last issue was so packed, they moved it to this issue, which I actually think is a good choice and one of the best they could make. I did see some fans wondering how long are between episode 4 and 5 now, because Dole needs to meet up and make a deal with these two within possibly a day. Thankfully, it's not that big of a deal, and something that can be avoided and fans can just make assumptions on, so it's fine. It's more just people being curious about how long the show and comic takes place in. Maybe this scene takes place during episode 4, so that could slightly explain why Dole and Sin aren't around the camp, as they meet up and are trying to make a deal with each other. This scene being at the end of the comic could slightly explain why we don't see the Sin tease, since she isn't on the planet yet, but it does still feel like it's losing a little bit of that mystery and hints to the future. Thankfully, the episode does still talk about Sin, so it's not like she's completely gone from it.
Does it at least have pictures?
It doesn't. I checked.
Alright, so the comic is poor. I think it's worse than issue 1, but I'm not sure if it's worse than issue 2. In short, I think issue 2 is worse on most stuff, but it also has a better reason for why it's worse, that being because it was mixing 2 episodes together. Meanwhile, this issue doesn't really have anything holding it back. A quick thing is how quick the comic goes. The previous comics have also gone by fast, and episode 4 of the show was a fast one, so this issue takes it to the extreme. Stuff is very cut down, like Uzi looking around the camp is slimmed down to 1.5 pages, removing most of what happened and leaving the rough ideas like Uzi using the solver and finding the key bug. While we're on this page, the comic does like to say out loud what it's doing. As I've said multiple times, maybe it's just because they can't do the same as video, and because of the page count, they decided having the drones say out loud what they're doing would make it a little bit more understandable, but a lot of the time, it ends up giving the wrong feeling to a scene and just ruins it. It doesn't help that a lot of the added dialogue just kind of sucks. The art is the same as usual. Good, sometimes weird expressions and a lot of missing mouths, but it's still fine. I think some of the backgrounds are nice, and as always, the cover artist does a fantastic job, and to me, is really the one that sells these comics. Another thing is that the comic does like to give what they're doing a word, like heroic entrance or tender moment observed. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it, but some people might be. At least it didn't feel as forced as the dapper parts of issue 2. I said it in the previous videos, but once again, I think if you hadn't watched the show, you would be confused and not understand some parts of what's going on. However, while I can see somebody getting mixed up with this issue, I do think it is more understandable than issue 2, so it gets credit for that. You could debate that it's more understandable because a lot of stuff gets removed, like the solver stalking Uzi, any blink and you'll miss up details, which MD has a lot of. Either important moments or jokes are removed. I think part of that is because MD is the kind of show where a decent amount of that is a bit difficult to translate into comics, especially one with limited pages. Speaking of the page count, Onipress said the comics would get more pages. Standard comics have 20 to 22 pages. This comic had 24. I'm sure the pages are slightly helping, but it does still just feel like too little. When reading it will get extra pages, that came across like a lot and enough to change stuff. But depending on the original version, it sounds like this comic only ended up having 4 or 2 extra pages, which again, while that can help, I'm not sure how much it did. We all know this raised nearly 2 million on Kickstarter alone. Its original goal was, I think, like 5,000 or so, which I'm sure even they knew they would get more than that. So 1.8 million and however much money Glitch and Onipress put into this, I do wonder how that money was spent. I don't know how much the production cost is, but if this is money well spent, then I don't want to spend any money. Now I'm wondering what the extra pages for this issue was. Tessa and Jay arriving on the planet maybe? On the writing part, the writer does need benefit of the doubt, as Murder Drones isn't their story and they aren't Liam. They aren't making something 100% new, instead they are just trying to use parts of the original to retell it. But, at the same time, parts of the writing is just bad, and as everyone says, there is mischaracterization, especially with V. Everyone has seen and said it that Comic V feels nothing like Show V. Comic V is just a murder machine that's mad and jealous. The only 2 things we have gotten in the 3 comics so far is her smiling at Lizzie, and then her covering for Uzi. But that's 2 small moments at the end of 1 comic. Not to mention, the rest of her moments have been ruined. These comics are meant to follow the show and be accurate, but it really doesn't feel like it. People have said online, and even on my previous video, wondering why they are trying to retell a story in what currently feels like a worse way, instead of just doing something like a non-canon story. My guess is because it is a safer choice and people will pay for what they already know, and maybe they don't want to risk potentially adding anything to Liam's world without his direct involvement. The music video kind of did that, but I've heard claims it was apparently given the okay by Liam. I couldn't find any proof of that, so it could be a lie or playing with Liam's words of approving the music video as him approving it as canon, but I could have just missed it. That is a possibility. Anyway, point is, I can't say 100% why they decided to make these comics and make them this way. Don't get me wrong, if I could, I would love to interview Liam, Glitch, or even Onipress and the comics writer, but we all know that ain't ever happening. I do also want to talk about the marketing. I've said it before, but the marketing for the comic is really bad. Glitch and Onipress didn't say a lot about it. Even as of now, there's no real word from Onipress or Glitch. They did actually release new Murder Drones merch recently, but the comic has had no word on it, which could be because they are busy with other stuff and the comic is done by Onipress. But obviously they still give the go-aheads and check everything. It does feel a bit strange to not even do a simple post saying, hey, the comic's out. After all, Glitch are the ones with the fans because it's their show. It does look like everything has been thrown towards Onipress, which they are trying, but I just feel the information is difficult to find and should be easier. One of my main complaints has been that their website says nothing. A website is basically you. It should have all the information and be somewhere fans can go if they want to learn more about the thing. However, their website doesn't have much Murder Drones news, and it doesn't say anything about release dates. Release dates are online in places like old Onipress stuff such as social media, which you may or may not be able to see, or other places that also sell the comic being the ones to share the release dates. I just think it should be really basic to have this information more visible. They have a website, they have emails, even Neon Ichiban doesn't tell you the release dates for each comic, despite the fact you have them linked to your account. Again, a lot of people didn't even know issue 2 came out, either because they didn't get notified about it, the big YouTubers didn't really talk about it, and there wasn't really any marketing for it. At least there wasn't anything that I saw or anything that anybody shared about it. Meanwhile, for every other bit of Murder Drones news, I always see reposts about it. You know there's an issue when all the Glitch channels aren't even talking about the release dates in shorts. Most of them do that, and it's the easiest thing to just go, guys, Gameoverse is releasing on the 15th of May. It's a show starring this cat and this robot. It's by Glitch Productions. It's cool. Subscribe to me. And those videos will get lots of views. So you know there's an issue when they aren't even going over your comic. Giving Onipress benefits of the doubt, maybe they are a more physical seller, but then I would question why Glitch Productions, the people with a very online fan base, would decide to go with something that is mostly in stores. Personally, I bought the Kickstarter because I wanted to see the comic and knew there isn't any comic shops around me. Boring stuff aside, my point is I think Onipress do need to fix their marketing and change some stuff like using their website more. Maybe add a section on their website for up and coming releases. I'm taking too long with this, so to close it off, I think the comics are still poor, and I don't think they are money well spent. This issue removes a decent amount of stuff, and even stuff that it does keep ends up getting dumbed down. In positives, it is more understandable than issue 2, but that isn't really a challenge considering that issue was trying to mix 2 episodes into one. As usual, I try to be fair with these reviews by going over the good and the bad, giving possible reasons for why things may be the way they are. Keep in mind, obviously, I'm not a professional reviewer in anything. I'm not a comic expert, show expert, or even a Murder Drones expert. I'm just a person rambling about their thoughts, and hopefully it's entertaining and informational to you all. Personally, I would rate this issue a 3 or a 4 maybe. I would put it between issue 1 and 2. I still wouldn't recommend the comic unless you just want the art or adding it to a collection. The show is just better and has stuff the comic can't do, such as music. The comic doesn't do anything to make it a better or even unique experience and take on Murder Drones. If you're a Murder Drones fan that wants more content, you would have a better time looking at fan projects. If you aren't a Murder Drones fan, and these comics are your first time seeing MD, as these comics were meant to introduce a new range of people to the series, I would recommend you just go watch it on YouTube. It will make more sense, be more entertaining, and it's free. Overall, what can I really say besides the comic tries? But if you want the best experience, just go watch it. It's literally free on YouTube. You can save yourself the $5 or so each of these comics cost. I think that's everything. I'm sure I missed something, either because I didn't notice it, forgot it, or just didn't feel like including it, especially because I don't have the time to sit on this script and the editing stages for this video. Hopefully you all had a decent time and enjoyed the video. Thank you for the last one. I was surprised when the first one did well and the second one doubled in performance. I know after issue 1 a lot of the big YouTubers stopped talking about it, and they'll probably talk about it again once every issue is out. But I'm going to try go over every issue as it comes out, so you can subscribe for that, I guess. Also, share your thoughts and all that on the video in the comments, that basic YouTuber stuff. Obviously I have other videos, including ones on other Liam projects. You all get the idea, you watch YouTube. Anyway, to close off this video, I hope you all enjoyed and you're having a good day. In case I don't see you again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.